Hello, this is Peter Posen, and we're doing another segment of In Between. Well, I don't have much to do today, so I thought I'd come out and talk about aqueducts. I'm sitting right here on an aqueduct. We'll be looking at this aqueduct. We're in the lower aqueduct, which was built by the Hasmoneans back in 140 to 37 BCE, that is before Christ. And the aqueducts would follow the slope of the mountains, traveling at certain degrees. These are called gradients. And if the gradient was too steep, that would cause the erosion of the plaster or cement in the trough where the water is traveling. And if it was not steep enough, then you would have a problem of stagnation. So you wanted to keep your water pure. So your water flow had to be at a certain level, and in order to get that level, as you know, with the aqueduct system of the ancient times, you had to use gravity. There were no water pumps back 2,000 years ago. And so I'm going to zoom in and show you some of my high-tech graphics. I know all you artists out there are saying, well, maybe after I'm dead and gone, my graphics will be worth some money. But anyhow, I'm going to bring the graphics closer to the camera and give explanations. There are two aqueduct systems that fed the ancient Jerusalem. As you can see in the background, you see the Temple Mount with that golden dome. That is the Dome of the Rock. All right, so here are my graphics of the water system. Oh, a lot of wind here today. So we start up by Bethlehem. Here's my little pointer. These are the springs at 840 meters above sea level. And from the hill below down into the wadi is a 20-meter drop to 820 meters. And that feeds into these pools. Now these pools are called Solomon's pools, but they have nothing to do with King Solomon. It was built by the Hasmoneans. The Hasmoneans were the rulers from 140 to 37 BCE. They were the ones who took over from the Greeks. If you remember the story of the Maccabees, they reconquered the territory, and the Hasmoneans were the ones who started the lower system here. The upper system was built by King Herod. So, let's see. Try to get my pointer in there. There we are. So from here it follows the hillside over to Bethlehem. And Bethlehem was a tunnel. In those days, Bethlehem was a very small city, so it was a very small tunnel. And then it comes out at the other side of Bethlehem and continues along the ridge until it gets to the hill where Ramat Rachel is, rather than going all the way around that ridge, which would have made it longer. they made a 400 meter, which is about 1,200 foot tunnel cutting through the mountain, coming out the other side. And then again following the ridge over to this mountain right here, goes around. This is called the Hill of Evil Council, and believe it or not, the UN has a main headquarters on the Hill of Evil Council. This hill was where the different armies would overlook the city of David and plan their attacks upon the walls of Jerusalem. And so they come around the mountain and then follows along the ridge here, and we're right here. This is where we're at. And this ridge overlooks the valley of Hinnom. So then it travels here. As you saw those buildings in the foreground, that is Albator. And so this particular aqueduct has been torn out and houses put in its place. And then it comes down to these pools in the Hinnom Valley, which is called Sultan's Pools. I don't know why, maybe one of the sultans enlarged them. And then it continues around. This is Mount Zion up here. It continues around Mount Zion and then comes to the temple and then dispersed down to the lower city, the city of David. So this area is the lower city, and up here is the upper city. And so the lower city, as you can see, is 760 meters. So you subtract 760 from 840 and you get 80 meter from the spring, 11 miles as a crow flies from the old city to south of Bethlehem. And that is a gradient of 5 feet per mile. Even though it's 11 miles as a crow flies, there's actually 21 miles from end to end of the zigzagging and going through tunnels of the aqueduct. So you have to maintain your water flow, and in order to do that, of course, you have to have certain instruments. But before we do that, I'm going to just show you another high-tech graphics, and this is the one built by Herod the Great, and we are going from the spring over here. There we go. This is 14 miles, built by Herod the Great, with a gradient down to the upper city. Now you see Jaffa Gate right there. Herod the Great built a large palace there with big swimming pools and lots of different baths and stuff, and so he needed a lot of water. So he made a different aqueduct from a higher spring, and that traveled all the way to the upper part of the city where he had built his palace. And that is, I think, a 2.8 gradient. So you have the upper, and then you've got the lower. So you have these two different aqueducts feeding the city of Jerusalem. Now this aqueduct that we're standing next to today was, like I said, built in the Hasmonean period, and it lasted until 1922. Yes. Almost 2,000 years it was in use. Well, what happened in 1922? 22 AD is the British brought in electricity and electric water pumps. So now with electric water pumps you no longer have to deal with gravity. Water pumps work on pressure. You can push that water right up the hill and into where it needs to go. So how did they construct these aqueducts? Here is the Colabite. Let me get a little farther out. Colabite was a long 16-foot table, and in the middle of the table was a groove where water would be placed, and as we all know, water levels. So this was actually a water level, and then on each end you have a sight. Here's a sight on each end, and that would go sighting up the yardstick, and then down on the bottom on all four corners you had plumb lines, and so you would adjust the table at the angle that you want to use. So this was one of the methods. This method is written about by many different scholars. These instruments were made out of wood and iron, so we have no longer any existing examples. This is the Deepura. The Deepura. We have a vertical, and we have a horizontal. And as you see on each end, you have a sight. This can be angled and changed. This sight can be angled up and up or down, depending on the yardstick. Another possible, they haven't found any of these, but they've been mentioned before, is a glass tube. A glass tube in a shape of a horseshoe, and you would put water in here, and as we know, water levels, and then you would see where that level is and make your adjustments for a level. And then once you found the level, then you can add and subtract how many degrees you want on this particular device. And this device has been written about.